As the three walked across the dune, Patasay stopped. He looked around and spotted a wall of sand on the wind, slowly engulfing the horizon and moving toward them. He let out a low growl until Doss tapped him on the shoulder. He looked to her and saw her pointing at a small mountain nearby. Frustration attempted to take over his face until Doss lightly grabbed his arm and shook her head, trying to keep a smile. Patasay took a deep breath and turned to Vern, who was still walking ahead.
Verneri, we will seek shelter in that small mountain. There's a path we could use to go through it.
Verneri nodded, and the three rushed through the entrance just as the sandstorm roared by. Once inside, Verneri noticed that the cave seemed unnatural, as if it was carved. Adding to this was strange drawings on the wall, with a crude depiction of a people akin to Patasay and Doss, alongside bipedal beings of blue and bipedal things of silver, facing towards disfigured things of white.
Patasay, this place was near your roots. Do you know what this place is? It's somewhere that should be forgotten, but will likely remain long after dusk and I. Keep your claws at the ready. Beasts of the Night use these locations as homes during the migrations, and it is near that time.
They pressed on, hiding the sound of their steps as best they could. Patasay took the lead, keeping the pace slow, and stopping the group when he spotted fresh tracks or heard movement nearby. Doss kept Verneri close behind her, stepping between him and every loud sound in the distance. A few times, Verneri would hear a faint cracking sound coming from Patasay or Doss, one he had heard during his longer trips into the desert. But when he tried to whisper to them to ask if they are well, they would shush him with a faint smile that looked like it would fall away in a fleeting moment. Or Doss would cover his mouth with her tail to stop him from attempting to speak. When they came across a wealth of tracks so numerous and fresh that even Verneri could see them, Patasay stopped and stared at the tracks in rage that was barely contained, and Doss stared at the tracks with a knowing frown. Verneri's heart sank seeing their reactions, but in place of speaking, he put a hand on their shoulders. Doss snapped to failing at a reassuring smile, but Patasay made no attempt at reassurance.
There are more than last migration. We don't have time to exterminate them all. And this species is impossible to lose once they believe a scent will lead them to a meal.
Patasay turned to Doss and nodded as she clenched her fists.
Verneri, Doss will protect you from here onwards. I will exterminate the pests here and then I will return home. You can't be serious. You won't survive.
Doss covered Verneri's mouth with her tail and kept her gaze hidden from the two of them.
You forget who is the best combatant in our humble village, Verneri.
He turned to Doss, but before he could speak, she hugged him.
Have a little more faith. We'll meet again, and I'll expect to hear about how you ensured young Verneri surpassed even the legacy of his father. And if you see that darkened eyesore of a creature again, I ask that you ram its stinger through its head.
She nodded, attempting and failing to hold back tears. He pulled away and gave Verneri a hug.
I know you will go further than us all and find what we could only dream of. Save a page for us in your legend, would you?
Verneri nodded, trying not to tremble.
Now that I have both of your senses should keep their attention on me. Keep your distance, and once I engage the heart of the nest, flee as fast as you can until this place is a speck in the distance. And don't look back. Understood?
Verneri nodded hesitantly, and he tried to give Patasay's water ration. Patasay turned around, not even glancing at the water ration.
Let us hurry. I'll not see more of your search time wasted by these malformed spawns of night.
Patisay then walked forward with a swagger born of determination. Verneri and Doss followed at a distance in silence as Patisay examined faint tracks leading to markings on the wall and scarce remains of dried blood. After examining the blood, Patisay looked around the area and discovered a more fresh stain further down the path. He immediately signaled to Verneri and Doss to follow him from a further distance and that they should prepare to run, because his quarry is near. When they reached the point of convergence between their tunnel and many others, Patisay trained his eyes on the giant masses of dark spiders in a resting trance in various places in the room. He motioned Verneri and Doss to head down another path while he stealthily circled the beast. As they rounded the corner, Vern and Doss gave a concerned look to Patisay, whose gaze was firmly on his quarry. The last they saw of Patisay was him lunging at the pack of beasts, followed by the sounds of a savage battle that slowly faded the further they walked down their path. With some hesitation, Doss led the way out of the other side of the system of tunnels, only stopping Vern when the sounds of reinforcements on the way to fight Patisay could be heard in the nearby tunnel. By the time they reached the exit, the storm had long passed and become an ominous cloud in the distance once more. They took a look around to ensure the area was clear, and it was then that Vern noticed the old and new tears that ran down Doss' face. He rushed to hand Doss her water ration, but she instead began walking into the desert.
Wait, you need to drink your water ration. You'll dry up soon at this rate.
Vern quickly caught up to her and held her ration in front of her. In an instant, she pushed his hand and the ration into his chest and started walking quickly. Vern struggled to find the words. However, she soon slowed to a stop on her own. She began to turn her head, but stopped short of looking directly at him. They stood there in silence for a moment. Then, she faced forward and motioned for Vern to follow her, and a concerned Vern obeyed. As the two set out, a faint cracking sound came from Doss, causing Vern to hold the trio's water rations a little tighter. The shifting sand under the weight and relentless light of their day star became the duo's constant companions, and their company stayed for minutes, which became hours, and finally days. While Vern drank only as much as he required from his own rations, Doss drank even less from hers. The cracks beginning to form a pattern on her scale showed the truth, and yet the distant look at her eyes told a lie that contradicted it.
Please, you need to take more to survive a journey this long. At this rate, we'll need some of Patisay's ration if we're forced to return empty-handed, but we'll still have plenty.
Vern stared at Patisay's ration.
He's likely back home now, gloating about his new battle scars as he waits for us to return with the news of water.
Doss clenched her fists and stormed off, smacking her tail on the ground, seeming to have caught a second wind. The smack startled Vern out of his thoughts, and he rushed to keep up with Doss. Unfortunately, he didn't need to rush for long. Mere moments after, her pace slowed and became less than that of Vern's. Yet, her expression denied her reality and welcomed no objections. Their expedition continued in silence for days, stopping only for a small amount of nourishment to ensure they can go as far as possible with as little needed as possible. Meanwhile, the desert proved its expanse. They crossed mountains and valleys, yet found no life outside the rare darkened beast, or a small creature of nourishment to be slain by a haggard Doss. The tired duo approached another small mountain range, yet as they approached, Doss gave pause and took a defensive stance in front of him, causing another of her scales to crack. Then, from around a nearby corner lumbered a large, dark scorpion, covered in scars. It raised its pincers and tail, poised to strike, yet how slowly it did so showed how weak it had become. Vern let out a deep, guttural hiss at the sight of the creature and prepared to fight, but was quickly interrupted by Doss' tail pushing him away. He stood baffled as Doss pointed at the horizon, away from the creature.
No, you are not in condition to take on something that...
She flicked her tail across the ground, splashing sand on Vern as another of her scales cracked. And the scorpion took the opportunity to try and capture its meal. Doss grabbed the scorpion's pincers mid-charge and used it to cover the creature's face as she wrapped her tail around its stinger to keep it at bay. The two struggled, crashing into rocks as Vern struggled to figure out how to help, until Doss yelled out in a broken voice accompanied by blood spewing from her throat.
Go!
Hearing her voice broke through his indecision, and he ran. He ran until the sounds of battle faded away. When he came to a stop, he looked back, only to see the heat rising from the sands. And so, he carried on. His steps became heavy, and after some time, the sands on the wind would erase his tracks, leaving no proof of where he once was and obscuring the way forward. Rather than resting during these storms, he would press on until his water rations ran out. He paused for a moment, staring at it, until a crack in one of his scales brought him back to the present. He slowly took out Doss' ration and gazed at it with sadness and determination. Then he began to drink from it and doubled his walking pace. His journey then brought him to a slow incline that might have once been a grand mountain before being smoothed over by the desert. However, on this incline he spotted strangely shaped lumps. Not spotting any movement indicating life, he went to investigate, and what he found baffled him. A creature he had never seen before, but it appeared to be comprised of a black substance. Very slowly, he touched it, and discovered that it was cold and hard as rock. And to add to his confusion, he felt the heat of the desert begin to weaken. He then turned to the other lumps he had spotted from a distance. All of them were different sizes and shapes. Some were in the shape of creatures that he had seen before, but most were entirely new to him. A spider-shaped lump bigger than he had seen before, a creature with 2 arms and 2 legs, yet no scales or a tail, a feline-like lump, and more. After having a look around, he pressed on with more caution. Not much further up the incline, he started seeing only rocks made of this strange black substance. As he reached the top of the incline, he noticed a strange phenomenon in the sky. He rushed to the very top and was caught off guard by a scorpion larger than he had ever seen before. He stumbled backwards until he realized it wasn't moving. What's more, it was made of the same black substance. Out of instinct, he hissed at it and bared his claws. Cracks then rapidly formed across the surface of the creature, and it crumbled to ash, causing a cool breeze to wash over Vern. A shiver went up his spine, and then another of his scales cracked. Surprised, he examined the ashes, and then his scales. His scales had become cooler than expected, and far faster than he thought possible. He then took out Doss's water ration and discovered it was empty sooner than expected. Melancholy overtook him as he put away the empty ration and took out Padisse's and discovered that it had less than he had anticipated. Holding back his concern, he quickly took a sip and put away the rest. It was then that he turned his attention back to the sky and his mind began to race. In the distance was a hole in the sky above a land of ash. Sandstorm clouds gave the hole a wide berth, and through the hole he could see stars he had never seen before. And out of the corner of his eye, he could see a glint of light far in the distance, and a faint swirling in the air going towards it. He glanced towards the ashes of the scorpion, then his scales, and finally the ration containers belonging to himself, Padisse, and Doss. A rage overtook him as he began running towards the light in the distance. As he rushed towards the light, the winds around him came to a complete stop, and he started to feel weaker. He slowed his pace, and the sound of another scale cracking made him take out Padisse's ration again, but to his surprise, it was already empty. He stood in disbelief for a moment, then he clenched the ration and sprinted towards the light. As he drew closer, all sand had become ashen rock, and the heat of the desert had given way to a chill Vern had never felt before. Before he knew it, he was close enough to see the source of the glint. A floating cube made of a material he'd never seen before. This cube was nearly his size, with a red glowing ring hovering above it. He went to approach the device and fell. Frustrated by his fall, he tried to stand and found he didn't have the strength. Fear set in as he looked back to the cube and his scales began cracking faster than he expected. He dragged himself to the cube while attempting to yell, but only managed a loud mumble.
You must stop. My people dying. There. Please.
He grabbed onto the base of the floating cube, trying to pull himself up with his claws, and failing to do so. In frustration, he hit the cube, causing a loud clanging noise to ring out over the ashen plain.
I am Vern.
His mind flashed back to his people the day he left. Padisse and Doss, his mother, but when he thought of his father, the cracking of his scales brought him back to the present.
I am Vern, of the Airy bloodline, and you will not take my people.
He gathered all the strength he could and struck the cube. A deafening sound rang out and the cube rocked in the air, before returning to its perfect upright position, undamaged. He slid down the cube's side with his claws, yet left not even a scratch on it. Then he slumped to the ground, his eyelids heavy.
Darkened cube, a drying day to you and your darkened creator. Forgive me, Father, everyone.
As his eyes began to close, he felt something grab his tail and quickly drag him far away from the cube.
Please, destroy it. It can.
After his eyes finally closed, he felt something raise his head and pour water in his mouth.
Don't move. I will handle this, Vern.
He then heard the rumbling and breaking of stone beneath him. This was followed by the sound of metal breaking and the deafening sound of large amounts of rushing water and brute winds threatening to push Vern along the ground. After a moment, The brute winds became a gentle breeze, and Vern gained the strength to open his eyes and raise his head. Before him stood a bipedal creature the likes of which he had never seen. It was covered top to bottom in cloth, with the exception of its face and hands, which had no scales.
Do not move. You're likely heavily dehydrated and will need time to recover. I have taken care of the cause for now.
Vern turned his head to look around and discovered that he and this strange creature were atop a large floating rock circled by rushing wind as a raging ocean expanded far below them.
You have returned water to my people. Thank you.
What did I just say about moving? And you shouldn't thank me yet. I do not know how much that cube has taken from your world, or how much damage its return will cause. But I will stay to help those who have survived for as long as I can. Once we reach my ship, I will take you back to your home.
Vern thought about her words for a moment.
I must ask that you take me somewhere else first. There are two Musimtu I must find and bring home with me.
She nodded, and with a flick of the wrist, the rock they were on flew over the water. Vern watched as the water consumed the area of ashen rock, and then the ashen remains of the scorpion, along with all the other lumps he had found.
Who are you?
She gazed at the horizon, her eyes filled with the sorrow that she tried to contain. Despite not achieving her goal, she turned her attention to Vern.
I am Adia Apak, an arbor mage.
I do not know those names. Are you a deity?
She gave a restrained chuckle that caused the sorrow across her face to crumble away. Vern stared at her, his face full of mixed emotions.
Forgive me, I was not expecting such a question. I am a being not from this world, but I am not a deity. You may think of me as a traveler.
Verneri tapped on the rock serving as their transportation, then looked over the edge of the rock at the water that was being left behind by the rock's speed.
I see. If I may ask another question, where are you from? Are all beings there born with these abilities?
A smile began to slowly find a way onto her face as she spoke.
Feel free to ask me any questions you have. My abilities were not with me from birth. They are both learned and acquired through a ritual.
Vern perked up.
Then other people can learn these abilities?
The interest on Vern's face brought both joy and the return of sorrow to Adia.
Yes, but only by being brought to the arbor mage homeworld by an arbor mage and performing the ritual after a thorough examination.
Vern grit his teeth and summoned the strength he was gathering throughout the conversation. He slowly and shakily rose to his feet.
What are you doing? You need rest.
He stood up, his full height towering over her.
To ensure the future of my people, please take me to your world and perform the ritual.
She looked upon him as his legs struggled to support him, tears running down her face.
I will.
He dropped to one knee exhausted, and she rushed to help him lay back down.
After I escort my friends home, we can leave when you are ready.
She nodded, but remained speechless as the rock approached her ship. He marveled at the ship's design, a large structure made of a material he had never seen before in the vague shape of transportation. Suddenly, the rear door opened, and the rock finally landed. Wordlessly, she put his arm over her shoulders and lifted him up, helping him inside somehow despite not appearing to be muscular. The textures under his feet and strange stone and lights all around him aboard the ship left him at a loss for words.
I will bring you some water. Do not move. I mean it this time.
He nodded, and she walked deeper into the ship as the door leading outside closed. He sat still, the occasional humming or beeping of odd devices slightly unnerving him with each sound he had never heard before.
I was unsure of the amount of water you might require, so I've brought you a jug.
He jumped slightly at her voice breaking through the low, monotonous sounds of the ship. She quickly handed him the jug with a warm smile on her face. Still in a very dehydrated state, he didn't hesitate to begin drinking the water.
Ah, thank you.
Do not thank me yet. There's still much to be done.
The warmth in her smile faded, and then she averted her gaze.
Especially if you are to become my student. There is also something I must ask of you, selfish though it is.
What is it?
You must never destroy a box yourself, like the one you saw earlier.
He choked on the water and began coughing.
Are you all right? I'm sorry. I should have waited for you to finish drinking before I spoke.
After a brief coughing fit, he set down the water.
Why would you ask this of me? You know I wish to save my people.
As my student, my wish is for your safety. I know the lives most arbor mages choose are difficult ones, but this is a sacrifice that I do not want for you.
Vern looked to the jug, and then her.
What's going to happen to you?
She glanced at her hand, and then met Vern's gaze.
I will help you find your comrades. Then I will take you to the arbor mage homeworld for training.
But you...
Please, I do not wish to speak of the matter.
A silence filled the room while Vern failed to find the words.
Understood.
He looked around at all of the unfamiliar machinery.
How do we make this ship travel to my friends?
If you are feeling strong enough, I will help you to the cockpit. I will show you the controls once we are there.
I'm strong enough. Let's not keep my friends waiting any longer.
Audio rushed under his right arm to help him stand, and together they moved to the cockpit. Once there, she sat him down in the co-pilot seat and began explaining the controls while she started the ship. And while he understood nearly none of what she said, he nodded, pretending to have absorbed the information for the sake of time. And despite how unsure of his reaction she was, she made the ship take off and fly towards the location of Dost, following his directions. Upon arrival to the area he last saw Dost in, they discovered that most of the area had been reclaimed by the rushing water. Hope had begun to leave him, until he spotted a small, singular patch of land that was high enough to not be reclaimed. Upon it he spotted what looked like a Musimtu on top of a large scorpion.
There! That must be Dost.
Cautiously, Adia brought the ship to hover next to the small island. Seeing how still the Musimtu and scorpion were, she tried to speak to Vern, but no words could leave her lips. And so he rushed with a weak wobble to the ship's door before she could speak. He hobbled out of the ship with Adia following close behind him.
Dost! We did it. We've come to...
Once he was close, he finally saw it. A large stinger-shaped hole in Dost's chest. And yet, the stinger was firmly lodged in the scorpion's head, and she laid on top of the beast's right pincer with a smile on her face. Vern went to check her pulse, and found nothing. Yet, her arm was still warm, as if she was still alive not long ago. Reality began to set in, and that's when he noticed the trickle of Dost and the scorpion's blood, and how they converged at the water. He fell to his knees, and Adia rushed to his side.
I failed her. If only
Stop. that thought will only serve to drive you to. You have found the water your people have searched for. You did all that you could. Do not dwell on what could have been, or you will lose sight of what still remains.
You are right, Master.
Struggling to keep his composure, he stood up and picked up Dost's body. As he somberly marched towards the water, he looked at her smiling face one last time.
I know not of your battle records, but I know now that they're true. And one day I will spread your legend as the one that ended the dread scorpion once and for all, and opened the path that led to the great ocean.
He gently placed her in the water and let her go.
But now it is time that you rest. May the divine river keep you, sister.
As her body began to float away, it glowed and broke apart into motes of light that sank beneath the ripples. Adia's eyes widened.
Forgive me. Is this ritual common for your people?
Yes, it's among some of our oldest rituals. Dost would have been able to tell you more. She descends from our record keepers that knew of a cursed time in our world's life. Her and Padise. We must hurry. My other comrade is still out there.
He turned toward the ship, giving one last glance at the scorpion. He then clenched his fist and hobbled back to the ship. Adia paused for a moment, looking at the spot where Dost vanished from, and then the scorpion, before going to help Vern back into the ship for takeoff. The ship then took to the skies, leaving a condensation trail as Vern retraced his steps to quickly locate where he last saw Padise. At his behest, Adia pushed her ship to travel as fast as allowed in the planet's atmosphere. And so, within minutes, they arrived above a large rock with several holes in it, some of which were beginning to fill with water.
There. Set us down. I must find him before he's trapped.
She brought the ship to float above the structure, and tore a large rock from the ground with her abilities for them to fly down on. Hurrying inside, they skimmed over the water, trying to avoid hitting their heads on the ceiling as Fern quickly gave her directions of each turn, while they weaved around rocks and corners in the cave system.
Stop here.
Adia brought the rock to a swift stop at the edge of dry land, leading to an open area in the cave up ahead. As soon as Vern's feet touched solid ground, he let out a concerned growl.
I smell blood. Lots of it. Stay close and as quiet as possible.
She nodded and moved behind him as he inched his way down the path, and it wasn't long before he spotted signs of a struggle. The marks of a beast being dragged away from their entry point by a Musimtu, and then blood. A smile emerged from Vern's face as they followed the tracks. The tracks led around a corner, but peeking out from behind the corner was the feet and tail of a Musimtu. A toothy grin became Vern's face.
Padise is bound to be tired after clearing this hive. Let us help him aboard the ship.
Adia nodded, but failed to raise a smile as Vern rushed to his friend. As he rounded the corner, his smile vanished nearly instantly. On the other side was Padise's lower half and signs of a fierce battle bordering on a war. And amongst the bloodshed was a path of Musimtu blood that led to a large and somewhat fresh pile of scorpion corpses nearly reaching the ceiling, and topped with the upper half of Padise's corpse bearing a smile on its face.
I'm sorry, brother.
A cracking sound broke Vern out of his melancholy. A weak wall was allowing a thin stream of water to run behind the pile, taking the blood of Padise and the beast with it. As the cracking intensified and the stream grew faster into a river, Vern clenched his fists and averted his gaze.
Let us allow him to rest. My people must be told of what happened to Patasay and Dost, and that their search is over.
Dejected, Vern made his way back to the rock they flew in on. As he did, Adia stayed for a moment, bowing to Patasay before speaking quietly.
I owe you and Dost my thanks for taking care of him this far. I shall endeavor to not disappoint you both.
She then rushed to the rock as the wall began breaking apart and filling the area with water. In an instant, the rock took off with Adia and Vern, and soon they had left the hive to board the ship again. Adia looked to Vern, but he gave no response to the hive's flooding, and so she flew them away. It wasn't long before Vern started giving her directions to his home, and yet, as they touched down outside his village, he made no move to leave the ship.
Forgive me for my cowardice, but I cannot face my people with this failure I have brought. Not until I have become an arbor mage and brought the person who took their water to face the judgment of my people. Please, tell them I am well, and will journey to bring justice to the cause of our suffering. Have no fear. They will not attack you on sight as long as you show you come in peace.
She nodded and went to deliver the message. He began watching her approach, but once he saw that her cautious approach went well, he scanned his gathering people, and then left the cockpit to go sit in the chair near the entrance to the ship. There he sat, his tail flowing out of the chair and tapping on the ground, waiting and waiting and waiting. When he glanced at the cockpit, the entrance finally opened, and Nadia entered with a look of deep thought on her face.
What did they say?
They support your decision and wish you well. And should you require anything, they shall provide. But I must ask, are you certain you do not wish to speak to your mother? I think speaking to her might raise your spirits.
He cast his gaze to the ground.
I will return to her once I ensure there will never again be a water shortage.
Her face became mournful. Then she began walking towards the cockpit, with her sorrow weighing down her every step.
Then let us leave quickly.
He hesitated for a moment while staring at the entrance, and then he followed Adia to prepare for takeoff. Back at the site of the cube's destruction, a humanoid in appearance robot hovered over the newly made ocean as water continued gushing from the destroyed cube far below the surface.
CB-11, we have an A unit on standby to eliminate the creature responsible. Give the order and the creature shall be eliminated.
No. Instead, I must improve my design. S9, prepare an energy map report for me. There is something I must investigate if I am to save as many as possible.